Dr. Shanna Swan. She's also a professor of environmental medicine and public health at the Icahn School of Medicine at Mount Sinai in New York City. Doctor, this is certainly a very dire prediction for the future of the human race. Is your book a worst-case scenario or just a warning of what could happen?
I think it's a warning, although it's hard to imagine that it would get worse. It's fairly bad right now. Right now, 10 years ago, when we last looked at the data, the sperm counts concentration was 47 million per milliliter, down from 99 40 years prior, and it's continuing to decrease. So below 40, men have more problems conceiving a pregnancy, and we have every indication that it's continuing to decline. So it's getting quite serious.
So what are some of the everyday products that we're coming into contact with that can be causing this decline in fertility?
The chemicals in our foods are very worrisome. There are phthalates and the bisphenols and other chemicals that can affect our hormone systems that are in our everyday foods, introduced through processing of foods, packaging of foods, and the way we heat foods. For example, microwaving in plastic, which is a very bad idea because the phthalates come out of the container and go into the food, go into our bodies. And this is particularly a problem for pregnant women because the unborn child is the most sensitive organism. And so that's what we really, really have to prevent.
So what's the solution if these chemicals are in wide use and we're regularly coming into contact with them?
I think the solution is, first of all, that people must get outraged by this. They must demand that these chemicals be taken out of products, because without that kind of pressure, there'll be no motivation for manufacturers to change their practices, and regulations will not change. So those chemicals have to be properly regulated in a way that actually protects us and protects the unborn child.
So how come people aren't outraged about this? Because we're talking about the potential extinction of the human race, and there has been a lot of publicity, I know, around your research and this book, but we aren't seeing changes to laws or new regulations, and we aren't seeing people rising up and calling for changes. Why do you think that is?
I think it's analogous to climate change. For a long time, people were not aware of the problem. They are becoming aware of the problem now through my book, Countdown, and lots of discussions now that are ensuing. But without people becoming aware, there won't be any motivation to change. The other thing is that people don't talk about their reproductive failures. It's very embarrassing. It's embarrassing to the man. It's embarrassing to the woman. And it's thought best to avoid any of those discussions. So I think that we have to be not afraid to talk about these problems and recognize that we share them all, and work together to exert pressure on governments to regulate these chemicals properly.
Right, but if governments won't take steps to protect people, what are some things that we can do every day, starting now, to protect ourselves?
Yes, that's a good question, and I suggest people read Countdown if they can, but here are some tips. Try to swap out plastics in your kitchen for ceramics and glass whenever possible. Try to eat unprocessed food. That's difficult and expensive, but processing introduces chemicals into the sauces and soups and so on. Try to avoid canned products. Try to avoid personal care products that contain a lot of chemicals. Maybe select those with fewer chemicals on the label is a good first step. Yeah, it's difficult. We get these products from everything. Our lipsticks, our makeup, our skincare products, our chemicals that we use to clean, chemicals that we use to launder. And one really easy thing to do is don't buy anything with fragrance, because fragrance definitely contains these chemicals.
Some good tips there. This brings the TV show The Handmaid's Tale to mind in that dystopian future. Do you think that's where we're headed? And what would be the solution if fertility does drop to a critical point?
I think we're going to rely more and more on assisted reproduction, and that's already happening. We're having to turn to various medical solutions, which are getting more difficult, by the way, as men with adequate sperm count are not available to bank sperm, and egg quality is decreasing. Nevertheless, there are a lot of sperm banked, there are a lot of eggs banked, and that's going to be how we're going to have to do it until we stop, introducing these chemicals into our bodies and harming our reproductive health.
Okay, and we'll leave it there for now. Thank you so much, Dr. Shanna Swan.